A female streamer was doing a live broadcast on the streets of the Shinjuku area, phone in hand. The cold in Japan was finally ending, but the morning air was still a bit chilly. The street was quiet, nothing like its nighttime bustle. It was 9:15 a.m. Most people were already at work or kids were in school. This streamer was so focused on her live feed that she didn't even notice when a man, dressed completely in black, appeared and stood right in front of her. And this man had come there with a purpose. But for this streamer, that morning in Shinjuku, the setup was done. She was live. In Japan, one of the popular platforms for this is Who Watch, sometimes called Fu Watch. It's a space where creators build communities. One such creator was Eri Sato. When Eri was around 17, she started creating content on Who Watch under the name AI Mogami. She wanted to do something different, to entertain people with her kind and funny personality through live streams. And it worked. Slowly, Mogami's following grew. From just 5 to 10 viewers, she reached thousands. Her content revolved around chatting with followers or doing fun challenges. She started collaborating with other creators, did so well that within 4 to 5 years, she became a top creator on the platform. Who Watch gives out badges based on popularity like ranks in a video game, and Mogami had earned the Platinum badge, the highest tier. She was practically a celebrity on the app. With growing popularity, the donations she received also increased. By 2024, Mogami was earning around 3 to 4 million yen through donations, roughly $20,000 to $27,000. Everything was changing for AI Mogami. Her followers, her popularity, but one thing remained constant. Her tight-knit community of loyal fans who watched every stream, whether at 10 p.m. or 2 a.m. And among these thousands of fans was one viewer, an obsessed fan. He went by the name Meiji Love. In Japanese, that can mean genuine love or extreme love. Meiji Love discovered Mogami's profile in December 2022, and after that, his life changed. This man, whose real name was Kenichi Takano, had a routine. His two hobbies were gaming on his Nintendo and watching Mogami streams. It became an essential part of his day. He always needed her stream in the background. Without Mogami's voice, without that ambient noise, he felt alone with his thoughts. A common feeling for people who experience deep loneliness. There's so much content designed to make you feel like you're not alone, like you have a friend, even if it's just through a screen. Meiji Love was one of those people. He saw a good friend in Mogami. After a long day, watching her would make his fatigue disappear, and to show his support, he would donate. Every bit of money he had left after selling anime figures, his side business, he would donate to her. These donations kept stacking up and the amounts grew. He was sometimes donating around 100,000 yen a month, about $700. A huge amount, especially for someone whose own monthly salary wasn't much. But Meiji Love was trying everything to get his favorite creator's attention, to show his affection. And his efforts did not go to waste. Obviously, if a viewer repeatedly appears in a creator's chat, donating huge amounts, they will eventually get noticed. And finally, Mogami noticed Meiji. She was so surprised by his donations that she decided to send him a personal message. Meiji Love could barely believe it. The person he'd been watching through a screen for so long had finally noticed him. Soon, Mogami and Meiji were texting each other online, a popular Japanese messaging app. But even after talking to Mogami personally, Meiji didn't stop his donations, which in a way showed his loyalty. Time passed. Mogami kept streaming. A challenge for creators is to keep things fresh. If viewers see the same type of content for years, they can get bored. So, Mogami decided to try something new. She planned a new type of content, an IRL, in real-life stream. She would walk around the Yamanote Line area and perform little challenges. She was excited to give her audience this new experience. Mogami posted all the details of the upcoming stream on her Who Watch account. The date was set, March 11th, 2025. On March 11th, around 9:15 a.m., Mogami was in Tokyo's Shinjuku area. She attached her phone to a tripod, opened her Who Watch account, adjusted the settings, titled the stream, and clicked Go Live. Her viewers, having read her post, were excited and waiting. As Mogami went live, her viewer count started climbing. The stream started with her greeting everyone, talking about the weather, how excited she was. She began her walk, visiting convenience stores, even inviting fellow streamers she met into her broadcast. She was doing everything to make it interesting. Around 9:30 a.m., she reached a street in Shinjuku surrounded by schools and office buildings. It was mostly empty at that hour. Kids were in school, office workers were at their jobs. Walking down the street, chatting casually with her viewers, she was visibly happy. Over 6,500 people were watching her live. But among those 6,500 was one fan watching from Oyama, almost 2 hours away from Shinjuku. A 42-year-old man named Kenichi Takano. Ken, as his friends called him, was a shy, reserved man. Since his school days, people knew one thing about Ken. He couldn't say no to anything. He was a yes man, but he was also lonely. His life hadn't changed much. At 42, his job was unremarkable. He was single. His social circle was small. He rarely went out. When he started watching Mogami streams, he fell for her fun and loving personality. He saw in her the friend he needed in his real life. So when he learned she'd be streaming just an hour or two from him, he got excited. He made a plan to go meet Mogami in Shinjuku, and he did exactly that. Ken was tracking Mogami's location through her live stream. Using landmarks and buildings in the background, he figured out exactly where she was and in which direction she was heading. Finally, tracking her, he caught up. Mogami was walking ahead of him, tripod in hand, talking to the camera. He could hardly believe the girl he'd only seen on a screen for years was now right in front of him. But the love and admiration that were usually in his eyes as he watched her streams were gone, replaced by something else. A deep rage, a look of vengeance. He had come to meet Mogami, but not as a fan. 9:50 a.m. Mogami's live stream was still on. Viewers were commenting, suggesting food she should try, telling her how funny and beautiful she looked. Mogami was reading and replying, so focused on the stream that she didn't notice the man who had stepped in front of her until he was already there. The man was dressed in all black. A black hat, a white mask covering his face. Only his eyes were visible. But those eyes were enough for Mogami to recognize who it was. It was Kenichi Takano. Maji love. Before Mogami could speak or even process it, Ken was ready. He had brought a knife from home, and without delay he began stabbing her. Again and again. Her head, her neck, her chest. So severely injured, Mogami now begged Ken for her life, screaming for help from anyone nearby. But the street was sparse, and the thousands of people watching her scream for help could do nothing. They were only watching through a screen. Yes, Mogami's live stream was still running. 6,500 people saw the attack happen clearly in real time. Comments flooded in. What is happening? Is she okay? Is this a prank? But when a man in a mask and hat appeared on screen, viewers knew something was wrong. In a split second, splatters of blood became visible on the camera. Ken was staring at the camera, his mind filled with so much hatred for Mogami that he had planned this, clearly knowing she was live. The extent of his hatred was evident from the injuries on Mogami's body. In total, Ken stabbed her over 30 times. But he didn't stop there. As Mogami lay on the ground on her own blood, Ken struck her head repeatedly and, sharing it live on stream, said, "Are you dead yet?" When the attack happened, a few people in the area heard Mogami's screams. But by the time they reached her, it was too late. It seemed the killer had fled. Near the body, a man was just standing there, looking at her. People assumed he too must have come running after hearing the screams. Little did they know that man was the killer himself. Usually, killers try to flee quickly after a murder. But Ken did not. He just stood there. He was very calm, just staring at Mogami's body. In fact, he was so calm that the panicked people around didn't even suspect this man could be the killer. When police arrived, they saw the bloodied knife near Ken's feet and bloodstains on his pants. They knew it was him. The police simply asked him once, "Did you do this?" And he confessed without any hesitation. As he was arrested and led away, he kept repeating one thing. Things weren't right between us. She didn't pay me back my money. Mogami was gone. Murdered by a loyal viewer, a fan she had once privately messaged, broadcast in front of a huge audience. As the news spread, people across Japan sympathized with Mogami. But as the case moved forward and details emerged, public opinion began to shift. A divide was created. Some people even started forming the opinion that maybe Mogami deserved this. Why would that happen? As mentioned, Maji Love, Ken, used to donate huge amounts to Mogami, which is how he got her attention and they started texting. First, things were normal. But as they talked more, Mogami began asking Ken for favors. Not just any favors, financial favors. Let's rewind. September 8, 2022. The first time Mogami asked Ken for a financial favor. She gave him the excuse that she had left her wallet at home, needed money, and promised to pay him back in a day. And Ken, as you might have guessed, said yes. That same month, Mogami asked for another favor. She claimed that at a host club where she worked as a hostess, she was forced to open champagne worth 100,000 yen and didn't have the money to pay for it. She asked Ken to transfer the money, and he agreed again. Now, what is this host club? In Japan, there are many host clubs where young men and women work as hosts or hostesses. Their job is to entertain customers. Flirting, dancing, singing. Basically to make their guests feel special. Allegedly, Mogami also worked as a hostess at one. Slowly, the amounts Mogami asked for grew, and she kept giving Ken new excuses. Sometimes she said her sister had run off with all her money. Other times she claimed she was vomiting blood and thought she might have cancer. And Ken, always giving her the benefit of the doubt, would send the money. He truly believed Mogami would pay him back one day. He had no idea Mogami was taking advantage of his fondness and admiration. Initially, Ken made money by selling anime figures online, earning a middle-class income. So where did he get such large amounts to give Mogami? Actually, Ken had saved 1.5 million yen over years of hard work, a nest egg for life's uncertainties. He spent all of it on Mogami. And when that ran out, he borrowed money from loan sharks. Not for himself, but for Mogami. It's insane to think someone would go that far to help another person. Ken was suffering. The loan sharks he borrowed from first were hounding him for their money back. But he had none. Ken's situation was so bad he was surviving on just rice and soup every day. Prisons in Japan serve better food than that. Ken tried many times to ask Mogami for the money back, but each time she would ignore him. So, Ken chose the last option he could. He took her to court. In 2023, Ken filed a case against Mogami. Mind you, Ken only wanted the money back that he had lent her as favors. He never once asked for the donation money back. In total, Ken had lent Mogami 2.5 million yen, around $20,000. A huge amount, especially for someone like Ken. Ken thought now he would finally get his money back. But he was far from the truth. On one side, Ken was literally struggling to survive each day. On the other, with all that money, Mogami was living a lavish lifestyle. She lived in a fancy apartment with her fiancé, ate at expensive places, went on trips. She was also making a lot of money on Who Watch. She had money, but apparently she had none to give back to Ken. And Ken could see all of this. He could see her lifestyle because it was all posted on her social media. Ken was so tired that he asked Mogami if she could just give him 10,000 yen a month so he could slowly pay off the loans, because he couldn't hide from the loan sharks anymore. Again, Mogami either wouldn't reply to his texts or would make a new excuse. January 2024, Mogami blocked Ken. She disappeared from his life. At this point, Ken had had enough. March 7, 2025, just a few days before the murder, Ken sent Mogami one last message. Please, give me my money back. I'm drowning in debt. I can't live like this anymore. As always, Mogami ignored Ken's message. And after sending that message, Ken saw Mogami's post about her upcoming live stream. Then something clicked in his head. He decided to end it all. Finally, he tracked her location from the live stream. And what happened next, you already know. When this case first came to light, everyone supported Mogami. But when the Japanese public learned about the relationship between Ken and Mogami, about the conversations they had, almost half of Japan started supporting Ken instead. Some even went to the length of saying, maybe Mogami deserved to die. And I agree, what happened to Ken was terrible. He was manipulated, deceived, and ignored. But does that mean you can take another person's life? In my opinion, absolutely not. Ken is currently under arrest, awaiting his sentence. To this day, Japanese people remain divided on whether what Ken did was right or wrong. But that was the case of Kenichi Takano, a man who lost everything, and Mogami, a girl who couldn't control her greed and unfortunately lost her life for it.